"Daddy, let's go," she said. I stared at her blankly. She couldn't have meant me. The girl, 5, maybe, looked up at me like I was her whole world. But I didn't know who she was. I didn't know why she was calling me that. "Sir," the crossing guard asked, hesitant. The light turned green. Cars honked. People moved around us. I couldn't breathe. She tugged again. "Come on, Daddy." I let her lead me across the street. I didn't know what else to do. We walked in silence. She talked about school and worms and someone named Miss Clara. I couldn't focus. Every sentence made my stomach twist tighter. She knew me. I didn't know her. We stopped outside a building. She punched in a door code, my birth date. I followed her in. Inside. Apartment. Familiar and wrong. Photos of me on the walls, smiling. Birthday hats. Sandcastles. Christmas trees. In every one of them, she was with me. I stumbled into the kitchen. Opened a drawer. Crayons, toy Band-Aids, a family photo with my arm around her like I belonged there. I didn't remember a second of it. "Want to see my room?" she asked. I couldn't speak. I just nodded. She grabbed my hand again. Her room was an explosion of stuffed animals and glitter. A drawing on the wall showed me holding her hand, a big sun overhead. "You drew this?" I asked. "Yeah. After you got sad and stopped remembering." I froze. "What?" She looked up. "You forget sometimes." Footsteps in the hall. The front door opened. A woman walked in, dark hair, rain-soaked coat, grocery bag in her arms. She stopped cold. Her face cracked. "Evan?" I stared at her. "Do I know you?" The bag hit the floor. Apples rolled. "You don't remember me," she said quietly. "I don't even know where I am." She looked at the girl. "Lila, baby, go to your room for a bit, okay?" Lila didn't ask why. She just went. The woman stepped closer. "I'm Sarah. I'm your wife." I didn't move. "You really don't remember?" "No." She stared at me for a long time, then walked into the kitchen, opened a cabinet, and pulled out a metal box. She placed it on the table and flipped it open. Documents. Forms. A video file on a flash drive. She didn't say a word as I read my name on a consent form. Neural trauma erasure. Subject: Evan Carter. Target: traumatic memory event. "What is this?" I asked. Sarah looked hollow. 2 years ago, you swerved to avoid hitting a dog. You saved Lila. But you hit a woman. She died. The world went silent. You blamed yourself, she continued. You stopped sleeping. Stopped eating. You wouldn't talk to Lila. You said you couldn't live with it. I felt my knees go weak. I sat. You begged them to take the memory, she said. You thought if they erased that moment, you could be a father again. I looked down at the paper. You signed up for a procedure, she said. But they didn't just take the accident. Her voice broke. They took her. Evan. I looked toward Lila's room. They wiped your daughter from your mind. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the edge of the bed in the dark, staring at the flash drive Sarah had given me. I hadn't plugged it in yet. I wasn't sure I wanted to see what was on it. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. Somewhere down the hall, Lila was talking to her stuffed animals, making up stories. Her voice was soft, like she'd gotten used to whispering through walls. Sarah came in carrying tea. She set it on the nightstand, but didn't stay. You should rest, she said. I didn't respond. She stood there for a second, waiting for something, an apology maybe, or just a look, but I had nothing to give her. When she left, I grabbed the flash drive and stepped into the hallway. Lila's door was cracked open. She was drawing, legs crossed, markers scattered around her. I leaned in the doorway. What are you working on? She held up a page. It was me again, stick figure version, holding her hand under a tree. She'd written me plus daddy in purple marker. You draw me a lot, I said. She nodded. Because sometimes you forget. Her voice was too calm for her age. Like she'd been carrying this weight longer than I had. What makes you keep trying? She shrugged. I remember enough for both of us. I swallowed hard. Can I show you something? I asked. She jumped up, already smiling. Treasure hunt. Kind of. We sat at the kitchen table while I connected the flash drive to my laptop. The folder was named Carter, Do Not Delete. Inside were medical scans, timestamps, and one video file named session_21_final. I hit play. It was me on the screen, thinner, tired, eyes hollow. I was sitting across from someone I didn't recognize. I see her every time I close my eyes, I said in the recording. Not the accident. Not the woman. Her. My daughter. Crying in the back seat. Her scream when I hit the brakes. The camera was silent. I leaned in. I don't care what it takes, I said. Just get it out of my head. I paused the video. Lila watched the screen carefully. Is that when you started forgetting? I think so. You don't look like you like forgetting. I don't. She placed her hand on my arm. Then maybe you can find your way back. I had no idea how to explain to her that memories don't just come back like lost toys. But the way she looked at me, it made me want to try anyway. That night, I went back to the locked drawer. I knew what I was looking for now. I pulled out every paper I could find. Invoices. Follow-ups. One page, mostly blacked out, had a line at the bottom that stuck out. Consent reaffirmed. Secondary signature. S. Carter. Sarah had signed something after I did. Maybe she thought she was helping. Maybe she didn't read the fine print. I found her in the living room, staring at the dark screen of the TV. You signed a second form. She didn't look at me. They said you weren't stable, that the memory was starting to splinter. You couldn't separate the crash from her anymore. I thought, if we just erased that moment, you'd come back. She's not a moment. Sarah turned to me, finally. You stopped calling her by name. You couldn't even say Lila without breaking down. And now I can't remember her at all. I thought you'd heal. You should have told me. She rubbed her hands over her face. Would you have said no? I didn't answer. Because part of me knew the truth. If I'd been as broken as she said, I might have signed anything. Before I could say more, a sound came from the hallway. Not from inside the apartment, outside. A metallic rattle. I turned toward the door. I opened it fast. Nothing. But the lock was scratched. Fresh. And a folder I'd left on the console table, gone. I scanned the hallway. Empty. I shut the door, locked it, and leaned against it, heart pounding. Someone didn't want me to remember. Sarah came up behind me. What is it? They were here. Someone took one of the files. She went pale. You think they know you're recovering? I think they never intended for me to recover at all. I waited until Lila fell asleep before grabbing my coat and slipping out. Sarah didn't ask where I was going. Maybe she already knew I wasn't coming back with answers, just more damage. I took the flash drive and the only page that hadn't been blacked out. It had a name at the bottom, stamped beneath the approval line, M. Ellison. I didn't recognize it, but I wasn't surprised. It was the first real lead I'd had, and I needed it to go somewhere. A search brought up one result that wasn't behind a paywall, an address linked to a research fellowship, now inactive. The building was across the city, tucked behind an old strip mall like they didn't want it found. I went the next morning. The place looked abandoned. Rusted mailbox, windows dark. I tried the door anyway. It was unlocked. Inside, a single desk lamp buzzed in a back office. A woman sat hunched over a stack of boxes, sorting through files like she was racing a clock. She didn't look surprised when I stepped in. You're Evan Carter, she said without turning. You're Ellison. She looked up. Mid-30s, dark hair in a messy bun. The kind of exhaustion that doesn't come from sleep loss, but from guilt. You shouldn't be here. Someone broke into my apartment last night. Then you really shouldn't be here. I stepped forward. You worked on my memory. I was supposed to monitor post-wipe adaptation. Keep the patient safe. Is that what you call what happened to me? She didn't answer. You wiped out my daughter. No, she said. I didn't. They did. I flagged the risk in the file. I sent it twice. I told them your memory was too interwoven. Then why did they do it? She hesitated, like she was weighing how much trouble she was already in. Because the goal changed, she said. It stopped being about healing. You were just a proof point by then. I looked at the boxes behind her. What's in there? Backups. Copies of what they erased. Not just from you. You kept them? I kept yours. She pulled out a drive and held it tight in her palm. You had a second consultation. You don't remember it. You were breaking down, crying in the hallway. Not because of the crash. Because she, Lila, wouldn't sit next to you anymore. She was afraid of you. I stepped back. She saw everything, Maya said. The blood. The woman's body. You were covered in it. And when she screamed, my ears rang. She screamed. I repeated, like the sound was crawling out of a locked room in my brain. Yes, she said. And you forgot that too. I sat down. You were so desperate to be okay for her, she continued. You thought erasing it would fix things. But grief doesn't work that way. It's not a stain you can scrub off. It's a wound. You either let it heal, or you bleed out. Then why erase anything? Because people like easy. She handed me the drive. You want your mind back? You're going to have to fight for it. I took it and left before anyone else could show up. Back at the apartment, Sarah was waiting at the door. You left without a word. I had a name. She saw the drive in my hand. You found someone. I found the truth. She looked down at the floor. I didn't know about the scream. I nodded. I just wanted you back, she whispered. You looked at Lila like she was a ghost. It was killing her. And now I don't even know her. You do, she said. Even now you do. You just don't remember why. Lila peeked from behind the couch. I sat on the floor and held out the drive. Do you want to help me remember? I asked her. She came over and nodded. We plugged it into the laptop. First file, a home video. Blurry footage of her birthday. She's laughing, frosting on her nose, me singing badly beside her. I didn't remember filming it, but I felt something. And then came another video. A dashcam angle. Night. Rain. The scream, hers, ripped through the speakers. Tires skidding. Impact. Sarah reached over and paused it, shaking. Lila clutched my hand. I was back in the moment I tried to destroy, and I finally understood. Forgetting hadn't saved me. It had nearly erased the only thing that could. The morning after we watched the dashcam footage, I didn't wake up in a panic. For the first time in weeks, there was no crushing pressure in my chest when I opened my eyes. Just quiet. Lila was already awake, sitting cross-legged on the floor beside the couch where I'd slept, flipping through a picture book. She didn't say anything, just looked over once to check that I was still there. I made breakfast, burnt eggs, underdone toast, and she ate it like it was perfect. Sarah joined us eventually, moving slowly, as if any sudden shift might tear the balance apart. No one said it out loud, but we all felt it. Something had shifted. The footage hadn't fixed anything, but it cracked the wall I'd been trapped behind. After we cleaned up, Lila brought over a shoebox full of her drawings. These are the ones I didn't show you, she said, in case they made you sad. I sat with her and went through each one. Some were chaotic scribbles, others careful recreations of parks or birthdays. One caught my attention, a picture of our car, drawn entirely in black. In the back seat, a stick figure with a red mouth wide open. The caption just said, I saw everything. I looked at her. You remember all of it. She nodded. But I don't think about it all the time. I remember other stuff too. Like what? Like how you used to say, we don't have to be perfect. We just have to stay. I didn't remember saying it, but the words landed like they belonged to me. Later that day, I went out to clear my head. I left Sarah and Lila at the apartment, promising I wouldn't be long. I took the flash drive with me. It was time to go back to the clinic. This time, I wasn't asking. I walked through the front doors like I still belonged there. Same receptionist, same frozen smile. I need to speak with someone about my file, I said. Sir, I placed the flash drive on the counter. I have a full backup. All of it. Procedures, deleted sessions, names. She froze, then slowly stood and disappeared behind a door. 5 minutes later, 2 men in suits appeared. One of them I recognized from the last time I came here. He smiled like he was trying not to. Mr. Carter, you've clearly been busy. You stole from me. You erased my daughter. I want my original records restored, and I want everything you took deleted from your archives. He raised his eyebrows. Bit late for demands. I leaned forward. Then I'll leak the footage. I'll make sure every client you've ever buried finds out exactly what they signed away. He smirked, but something behind his eyes cracked. I'd hit a nerve. We're prepared to offer compensation, he said. You could walk away today with enough to start over. You already took everything that matters. He leaned back. We'll handle it internally. I don't trust you to handle anything. As I turned to leave, he said, you know we can still shut it all down, right? Just because you remember now doesn't mean the rest of the world cares. You're a damaged man with patchy memories and a shaky medical history. That's all you are to them. I walked out without responding, but the words stuck. Outside, a woman was waiting near the curb. Maya, you followed me. I don't trust them not to follow you. She handed me a folder. You'll want to read this. Inside were printed emails, internal memos, notes from board meetings. One subject line read, expand trial scope, spousal cosigners viable for override. I stopped walking. You're saying Sarah could have stopped it? Maya hesitated. She wasn't just co-signing. She was the override. They couldn't proceed without her consent. My mouth went dry. She told me they just approved it. She approved it. I stared at the sidewalk. Cold wind blew past, but I didn't move. She thought she was helping, Maya added. They cornered her. Promised you'd come back. I didn't answer. Some choices don't come with clean answers, she said. But you deserve to know who made them. That night, I didn't go home. I sat in my car outside the apartment, folder in my lap, trying to figure out what hurt more, what I lost, or who gave them permission to take it. I didn't go inside right away. I watched the apartment from the street, lights on in the kitchen, silhouettes moving behind the curtains. Sarah rinsing dishes. Lila dancing in the living room, her hair bouncing with every spin. From the outside, it looked like nothing had ever broken. But now I knew the truth. Everything in that apartment was built on a decision I didn't make. When I finally went up, Lila was the first to greet me. She ran to the door like it was still normal for me to come back. "You missed hot chocolate," she said, wrapping her arms around my leg. "I'll have some tomorrow," I told her. "Promise." She ran back to the couch. Sarah watched me from the kitchen. She could tell something was off. "You're late." "I went back to the clinic," I said. She dried her hands. "Did they say anything useful?" I pulled the folder from my coat and laid it on the counter between us. "They didn't. But Maya did." Sarah's hand hovered over the folder without touching it. Her mouth tightened. "They needed a second signature," I said. "Yours. I told you." "They didn't just let you co-sign, Sarah. They made you the override. You were the decision." She didn't deny it. She didn't try to soften it. She just looked tired. "I thought I was losing you," she said. "I thought it would be easier to carry the guilt myself than to watch you collapse under it. So you made me forget my daughter. I made you forget hurting her." "You didn't just take the memory," I said. "You rewrote the most important part of my life." Sarah closed the folder and pushed it aside. "You think I don't know that? I've lived with it every day. I'm not talking about guilt. I'm talking about Lila." She knew I wasn't her father anymore. She watched me forget her face. And she stayed anyway. Sarah's voice cracked. "She loves you." And I didn't even recognize her. Silence stretched between us, tense and raw. "I didn't want to be the reason you disappeared," she said finally. "So I erased the part that broke you." "But it didn't save me," I said. "It just delayed the collapse." From the living room, Lila's voice floated in. "Can we do the treasure game?" I looked at Sarah. "Does she know?" Sarah nodded. "She knows more than she should." I went to the couch and sat beside Lila. She handed me 2 crayons and a blank page. "What are we drawing?" I asked. "Something from inside your heart," she said. I stared at the paper. "Even if your brain forgets," she added, "your heart still remembers, right?" I looked at her. "Where'd you learn that?" "You told me. A long time ago." I gripped the crayon tighter than I meant to. My hand moved slowly, drawing a circle, a small house, a stick figure holding a balloon. My chest tightened. I didn't remember the moment, but something inside me knew it was real. I drew another figure beside the first. Shorter, holding the same balloon. "Is that me?" she asked. "Yeah," I said. "That's you." She smiled. Sarah watched us from the kitchen, her eyes wet. After she tucked Lila in for the night, I packed a bag. Just a change of clothes and the folder. Sarah stood in the doorway. "Where are you going?" "I don't know." She looked at the bag. "You're not coming back?" "I need space." "From me." "From this," I said, gesturing to everything between us. She didn't stop me. She didn't cry. She just stood there while I zipped the bag and grabbed my coat. "At the door?" she asked. "Do you hate me?" I shook my head. "I don't know what I feel. That's the problem." I stepped into the hallway. She didn't follow. Downstairs, I stood under the flickering light by the exit and took a breath that felt heavier than it should have. Then I left. The motel room smelled like bleach and something older, like it had soaked into the walls years ago and never left. The air conditioner rattled even when it was off. I didn't turn on the lights. I dropped my bag by the door and sat at the edge of the bed, the folder still clutched under my arm like it might run if I let go. I hadn't brought photos. No toys. No drawings. No reminders of Lila. I needed silence. No distractions. No crutches. Just me and the version of myself I'd been avoiding since the crash. I opened the folder again. There was one document I hadn't read closely, the post-procedure summary. Page after page of clinical checkboxes and timestamps. But one note stood out, scribbled in someone's handwriting. Subject reports absence of guilt. Expresses emotional flatness. Father-daughter recognition absent. They said it like it was a feature. Like that was the goal. I threw the folder across the room. Pages scattered everywhere. The truth wasn't new anymore. It just kept getting sharper. They didn't erase my pain to help me heal. They erased it to make me functional. Clean enough to return to work, to speak in full sentences, to stand in a room and not collapse. That wasn't healing. That was dressing a corpse. I lay back on the bed and stared at the ceiling. I thought of Lila's drawing, the red balloon, the word stay. She hadn't begged. She hadn't even cried when I left. She just watched me like she knew I had to go lose myself before I could come back whole. The next morning, I walked. No destination. Just city blocks and bad coffee and too many thoughts. I ended up near the edge of the city where the sidewalks cracked and the bus stops were mostly empty. I passed a mural, bright colors, out of place against the gray. It showed a father lifting a child onto his shoulders, their hands stretched up toward stars. I sat across from it on a bench and stayed there until dusk. When I finally moved, I took out my phone and called Maya. I want the rest of the files, I said. You already have everything I saved. I mean everything. Every subject, every override, every cover-up. I want it. Why? Because I need to remember what they did to me. But I also need to make sure no one else forgets. There was a pause. Then she said, meet me tomorrow, 10 a.m. I hung up. I didn't go back to the motel. Instead, I found a quiet spot beneath the mural and watched the sky darken, the stars flickering one by one. I pulled out the notebook I'd started months before the crash. I hadn't opened it since. The first page was a list, things I don't want to forget. Lila's laugh. The way she says squiggly treasure. How she hugs without warning. Her bedtime questions. Her eyes when she's about to cry but won't. Her voice when she says, Daddy. I added a new one at the bottom. How close I came to losing her. A couple walked past, quiet. The man glanced down at the notebook, then at me. I didn't hide it. I didn't care how I looked. Some wounds shouldn't be hidden. Some pain should be visible. Otherwise, we start to believe we're fine when we're not. And that's when the real damage happens. Back at the motel, I gathered the scattered documents. I didn't organize them. I just put them in a new folder labeled with a single word, undo. The next morning, I'd meet Maya. And then I'd go home. But not to forget. Not to escape. To remember. Even if it tore me in half. Because whatever I had left, whatever was fractured inside me, it still meant something. And I was done letting anyone take it away. Maya handed me the hard drive like it weighed more than it should. We stood outside a library where she said no one would follow us. Inside the casing, copies of deleted patient files, unauthorized procedures, recordings, consent form forgeries. Names. Faces. Evidence. It wasn't just about me anymore. What you do with it is your choice, she said. But once it's out, there's no undoing it. I looked at the drive. You said they erased people like me. They erased people worse than you. You remembered. Others didn't. Some don't even know they had families. They just think they got sick. I put the drive in my pocket. Are you going back? She asked. I have to. She gave a tight nod, then stepped back. They'll come after you. Let them. I didn't go home right away. I made one stop, an old news outlet with a burned-out sign, the kind of place that used to matter more when people trusted newspapers. Inside, a woman in her 50s sat behind a desk, flipping through printed pages like it was still 2006. I have something for you, I said, sliding the drive across her desk. She looked at it, unimpressed. And what's this? Proof that memory manipulation is real, and that families have been destroyed by it. You have any idea how many conspiracy nuts come in here with stuff like this? I pulled out a single printed email from the folder, one with her name in it. She blinked, then sat up straighter. I'll look into it. No, I said. You'll run it. You'll put names on it. Faces. Real damage. I want people to know what they're agreeing to when they sign those forms. She paused. You ready to be one of those faces? I already am. I left before she could ask anything else. By the time I got back to the apartment, the sun was low. The curtains were drawn. My key still worked. Lila was asleep on the couch, curled up under a blanket. Sarah sat nearby, staring at her, like she didn't dare look away. You shouldn't be here, she said when she saw me. I know. She stood slowly. Did you get what you needed? Yeah. And I gave it away. She blinked, unsure what that meant. I sat on the floor beside Lila and waited until she stirred. When her eyes opened, they locked on mine like she wasn't surprised to see me at all. Hi, Daddy, she said. Hey, Bug. She sat up. Did you fix it? No, I said. But I remembered something. She tilted her head. I remembered why I did it. Why I wanted to forget. It wasn't because of the crash. It wasn't even about guilt. It was because I couldn't stand the idea that you'd seen it. That maybe you'd never see me the same way again. Lila didn't say anything. She just reached into the shoebox beside her and pulled out another drawing. It was me, kneeling. Her hand in mine. You always came back in the pictures, she said. Even when you forgot, you came back. I looked at Sarah. She hadn't moved. I gave them the files, I said. It's going public. She closed her eyes. You'll be in it, too. I know. You still think you did the right thing? She walked over and sat beside me. Not close, just enough to be heard. I think I did what I thought would save you. That's not the same as right. But I loved you too much to do nothing. I nodded. I believed her. But love doesn't always protect. It wounds, too. And sometimes it hides behind words like help and hope when it's really just fear. Do you want to stay? She asked. I looked at Lila. She was already drawing again. A new one. This time, the figures weren't stick people. They had color, shape, detail. I don't want to be who I was, I said. But I'm not trying to forget anymore. She nodded. I can't live here, I added. Not right now. I know. But I'll be around. As much as she needs. Sarah looked down. What about what you need? I think I need to earn it, I said. She didn't argue. Lila handed me the new drawing before I left. It was me holding a sign. I remember you. I folded it carefully, like it was the only thing in the world that mattered. The story broke 3 days later. It wasn't just an article, it was a full spread. Photos, recordings, my voice, raw and desperate, broadcast over a video of Lila's drawing. Her handwriting, her name, my story. They didn't edit it to make me sound heroic. I didn't want them to. They showed the messy truth. A man who begged to forget, a system that said yes, and a little girl who kept trying to bring him back. The fallout was fast. Lawsuits, investigations, anchors trying to look concerned while reading my name off a teleprompter. Former patients started surfacing. Some angry, some still confused, some too numb to speak at all. And I watched it all happen from a borrowed guest room 2 cities away, holding Lila's folded drawing like it was the only stable thing I had left. I didn't talk to Sarah that week. We sent texts about logistics, Lila's school hours, a dentist appointment I'd missed, drawings she wanted to show me next time, but we didn't talk about us. Maybe we wouldn't again. We both knew love doesn't always make people right. Sometimes it makes them reckless. I saw Lila again on Saturday. She ran straight into my arms like she hadn't kept her distance at all, like I hadn't vanished. I held her tighter than I ever had. She didn't ask where I'd been. She didn't ask if I remembered more. She just pulled a crumpled napkin out of her pocket with a drawing of a heart and said, "This one's so you don't forget again." We sat at a park bench and split a sandwich while she told me a story about a girl who flew on her dad's back like an airplane and saved the moon from falling. I didn't recognize the game, but I could see it. Her imagination filling the blanks I used to fill for her. That was the part no one talks about. When you disappear from someone's life, they don't just stop needing you. They rewrite the story without you in it. I still have the notebook, I told her. The one with the list. Yeah, I added something to it. She perked up. What? You, I said. You're what I want to remember most. She leaned against my shoulder, soft and still. Back at the apartment, Sarah opened the door but didn't speak. She looked more tired than last time. I got the sense that the whole world had been leaning on her shoulders while mine were turned. Lila had a good day, I said. She always does with you. I nodded. She's different since you came back, Sarah added. Calmer. I think I am too. We stood in the doorway for a long moment. Not as enemies, not as anything defined. Just 2 people who had survived the same storm from opposite sides of the house. I'm not ready to move back in, I said. But I want to show up. Every week. Every day if she wants. She wants. I turned to go. Evan, Sarah called. I kept a copy of the list you started. The one in the notebook. Just in case. I gave a small smile. You believed I'd want it again? No. I just knew you'd need it. I left without saying goodbye. That word never landed well between us. Weeks passed. The noise around the story faded, as all stories do. New headlines replaced my name. But I didn't disappear this time. I showed up to Lila's school presentations. I picked her up from the park. I ate her lumpy pancakes and let her win at card games. We didn't talk about the memory loss often, but it hovered in the background, a ghost we both learned to live with. Some days I remembered a moment, a laugh, a phrase. Some days, nothing. But I kept the notebook going, kept writing her in. Her drawings, her songs, the way she danced in grocery store aisles when she thought no one was watching. She was always watching me. One night, she asked me, what if it all goes away again? I thought about lying. I thought about telling her it wouldn't. But she was too smart for that. It might, I said, but I'll fight it. Promise. I nodded. Every time. She seemed satisfied with that. The next morning, I found a new drawing taped to my door. Two figures holding hands beneath a crooked sun. The caption read, "Us, always." I stood there longer than I should have, holding it, reading the words again and again. The truth is, I don't know how much I'll remember in the years to come. But I remember her voice when she said, "Daddy, let's go." And I remember not knowing her. And I remember what that felt like. That's why I'll never run from pain again. Because if you don't face it, you risk losing the very thing that matters most.